welcome to episode 62.
Look at that.
Of the Thicc Bois podcast. I figured we'd go ahead and get it out of the way now.
Get that out of the way. Everybody knows what episode this is.
Yeah.
I feel like the last two episodes, we didn't even bring it up.
You people know what this is by now.
Yeah.
What do you mean, you people?
What do you mean, you people? You've seen Tropic Thunder, right? Yeah.
That's one of my most favorite movies.
One of my favorite parts in that movie is right at the beginning when they're showing all the trailers for like the fake movies.
Oh yeah.
And what's the one where Ben Stiller plays that retarded guy? Is it Simple Jack?
Yeah, Simple Jack.
Simple Jack. Oh man.
What is it, Robert Downey Jr.? He's like, you never go full retard.
You went full retard. You'll never go full retard. The part where the one black guy says the N-word, Robert Downey Jr. smacks him. He's like, for 400 years, that word has kept us down.
He's like looking at it. Yeah. Well, he starts quoting the, was that show that used to come on like back in the 70s? He starts quoting the lyrics to the theme song.
Is it Sanford and Son?
No, it's not Sanford and Son. It's you know which one I'm talking about, though, right?
I just can't think of it.
I can't name it off the top of my head.
You know, I'm honestly surprised, or maybe he did, but I didn't see it, that Robert Downey Jr. didn't catch a whole lot of shit for quote unquote blackface.
Well, I think the way that he portrayed it in the movie is he was poking fun.
Yeah,
the
that's
absurdity.
The whole idea, right? But a lot of people can't see past just the face layer of what they're looking at.
Right. Well, I remember I watched a podcast with Joe Rogan where he was talking to Jamie Foxx, and they brought that up. And Jamie Foxx was like, the whole point of like him doing that was poking fun at the absurdity of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it is a really good movie. It's it's one of those it's one of those movies that like like every time you watch it, there's like a new thing to appreciate.
What's the part where they're running through the jungle and he's getting shot and he's just got like all these strips of meat for arms?
Yeah, he's like basically just like a chicken nugget. Robert Downey Jr.'s like, you hold on.
Survive. Oh God, that's such a good movie.
I love Jack Black's character as like a coke fiend. And when they get like caught out in the out in the jungle, he starts like having withdrawals.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just share a quick little story. Wesley and I, before we started recording, were discussing work-related things. So yesterday, around 9 o'clock, two of my colleagues called me on a Teams call, and they're like, "Hey, we've got to get all these comments addressed on this project that we're working on."
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like an 80-page like PDF, and it's a plan set for a project that my company is working on. And someone higher up in the company, excuse me, someone higher up in the company will review it, make comments, fix this, change this, whatever. So that's kind of the gist of it. Well, the section that I was working on, it was about 34 pages, and
that sounds awful.
Well, it's really not that bad. It's just a lot of like doing the same thing on a lot of different pages. And the program that I use is not the fastest thing in the world.
No.
So there's
a lot of waiting involved.
There's a lot of waiting involved with like, if you have like a text block and you need to go in and change the text, you click on the text and it has to wait to select it.
Right.
And then you have to double click it to bring up the text editor, and it has to wait to bring that up.
Right.
So it's just a culmination of all those things, and everybody knows what the deal is. But Around like 3:30, one of the other guys who was on that call, he calls me back. He's like, "Hey, are you done yet?" And I was like, "No, like what do you mean done?" Like, it's like
it takes 5 minutes for me to get the system to do anything.
Yeah. And he was like, well, how much do you have done?
Yeah.
And I was like, basically like 10% of it.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh man. He's like, well, this has to go out by 5 today.
Like, well, it's not.
I was just like, well, that will not happen. Yeah, so he's freaking out. I'm freaking out. And he's like, well, call, so and so, the PM, who's like the person below the big boss, who is over this project. He was like, well, call her and see what she says. And I mean, he was freaking out like, fuck, we're gonna lose our jobs, without saying that. So I'm like, ah.
It's like, no, I need this money.
So I shoot her a message on Teams because she's always busy. I was like, hey, give me a call when you can. I was like, I have questions on this project. And I was like, well, in the meantime, I'm just gonna keep doing what I can do.
Yeah.
And she finally calls me, and she's like, hey, what's going on? And I was like, I just want to let you know that I'm not going to have all these comments addressed by 5.
No.
And she was like, okay.
No.
She was like, yeah, she's like, I didn't expect that to be the case. She was like, the best we can do is just do all we can.
Right.
And then, send it out for submittal and get it back with a bunch of, of more markups.
Right.
But I just thought it was funny that, like he freaked out like that. It caused me to freak out. Right. And we're both like freaking out. And
then your project manager's like, man, it'll be all right.
Yeah, it'll be fine. She was like, yeah, this is gonna be how it is.
Right. I've gotten to the point now with my job, which is like I've learned the system fast enough to where like I've kind of got put on like more projects with like high visibility. Mm-hmm. And so like one of the ones that I'm on now, and I'm sure people are really loving this all these work stories, but so I work directly like with the customer. Mm. So like the project manager be like, hey, here's your consultant, and they just kind of hand me over to the customer.
Yeah.
On a larger project, there's usually like a delivery lead who's like is the person that's the go-between between me and the customer.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing all the configuration. I'm just the one person.
Right. Yeah.
And so like we use like Agile Accelerator, which is like they'll write the user stories in there, and then you have to go and complete the user stories and like put comments and stuff.
Yeah.
And so like we break it up. Like I don't know how y'all do it, but we do it in like sprints instead of like waterfall type stuff. And it might be different because we work with software, and you don't necessarily like work like software related.
Like we use software, but we don't work on software.
Right. Exactly. So like the customer will come back and be like, oh yeah, all this stuff that we asked for, yeah, we want all that changed.
Of course you do.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, you understand that like this sprint that we're in only lasts like a week and a half, right?
Yeah.
Like it took me a week.
So you're talking about like allocating time to this particular project.
To this particular portion of the project.
Right.
And so we were in a meeting, and my delivery lead was like, we're not doing it.
You're just not gonna get it.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Yeah, he was, because we had already like gone through and made like all these changes. We'd done like 48 changes, and so it was like most of it was small stuff. There was some big stuff in there too.
Right.
And so like they just like kept coming back with more stuff, and it was like, this was from the sprint that we were in before.
Right. Yeah.
And he was like, we're not doing any more of that.
Yeah.
From what we've like, we can push that out to like the last portion of the project if we have time. He's like, but we're not doing that. And the customer got mad.
Oh yeah, of course, because they're a precious little baby and they need their thing more than anybody else.
Right. And it's like, I just don't understand like how people that work at companies don't understand. It's like, oh, do you have one thing that you do?
Yeah.
Like, is this the only thing that you do? Mm-hmm. It's like, no, you have this and other things that you do.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, I'm working on your project plus like another 4 projects.
Yeah. And they all need everything just as badly as you do.
Exactly. That's why it's so nice when you like get a customer like, oh yeah, just get it to me whenever you can.
Yeah, people who are understanding.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not forward facing with the customer. not really at my new job, but when I worked I used to work for a different gas contractor, and part of my job was to kind of coordinate with the builders. Mm-hmm. So you have builders who go out and build these subdivisions, put up houses or what have you, whatever the thing may be, and there's a certain stage of the development of a house where they're ready to receive a gas service. Mm-hmm. So they got to run all the pipes through the house wherever the gas is going. Go to the kitchen for the stove, go to the laundry room for the dryer, whatever. And they'll have a little, what they call a stub that just sticks out of the wall where the gas meter attaches. And so we have people whose literal jobs, they're called lookers. They drive around and they look at houses to see if they're ready to have services ran. And Aaron did that for the longest time. And I used to do it with him. I used to go with him while he did it. And that is just fucking monotonous. And it's like you're just driving around.
Did I already look at this house?
Yeah, you like drive up, look at the side of this house. Okay, that one's not ready. You drive a little further, look at the side of this one. Some people's houses are up on a fucking mountain, so you gotta walk up their big ass driveway just to find out that it's not ready. So, I talked to a lot of builders who would call me and be like, "Hey, I need gas run to this house right now. Like, it's gotta go. Like, what are y'all waiting on?" And I'm like, well, from everything I've been told, sir, like
yes, sir.
Everything I've been told is that house is not ready to receive gas. Yeah. He's like, well, I'll have the stub out before y'all get here tomorrow. Okay. And I was like, okay. And then we'll send a crew out there, and guess what? No stub, so they go somewhere else. And they're like, why don't I have gas? So there was just so many times where they're acting like it's the end of the fucking world. Right. If they don't have their thing right now when I need it right now.
You'll be okay.
And then more often than not, you get out there and you can't run it because it's not one, it's not ready, or they left a bunch of bricks in the way. Right. And we're not allowed to move your shit. You have to move your shit. Right. I remember specifically there was this one guy, and so before our crews would go out and start digging around on the property, you have to do what's called a locate ticket. Mm-hmm. I imagine most everybody, no matter where you live, you've seen advertisements for like an 811 service. No. Then you call these people or you submit a ticket online, they come out and they'll put flags and paint on the ground to say, okay, well, here's a water line, here's a cable line, blah, blah, blah. And we are legally bound to only dig if there's locates on the ground. Yeah. If there's not locates, then we just go there and start digging.
Yeah, then you're liable for if you hit anything.
Exactly. And so this one guy, I don't know if it was either him or his crew or they weren't communicating or what, but like we would call in a locate ticket, it would get marked up, and then his guys would like grade over them. Like, I don't know if there's like a bunch of dudes out there on a bobcat. Yeah. Just like why do these flags keep appearing in this yard? They just get running them over. And he was like, I've been dealing with y'all for 2 fucking weeks, and he was like, I haven't even seen any locates out here. I'm like, dude.
Well, sir.
The worst one, or kind of the one that taught me, like, okay, don't take it too seriously when they say that it's we need it now, is they were building an old folks home over in Hiram. Mm-hmm. Over kind of near where Walmart is. Mm-hmm. And that guy called me every day for like a month, wanted us to come run his gas service. And he was not letting it go. He was like, man, he's like, if I don't have this by Christmas time, he was like, oh, I don't even want to think about what's going to happen to my business, man. And I was like, okay. I'll do everything I can to get, guys out there. But, last couple of times they went out there, they wasn't ready to receive gas. Yeah. So that was 8 years ago. No. That building is still unfinished. Every time I drive past it, I'm like, that motherfucker. Yeah, so now I try not to take it too seriously when people are freaking out about deadlines. That doesn't mean I'm lazy. Right. And I'm just like, pshaw, whatever. Yeah. Like, fuck, But I'm like, okay, all I can tell you is I'll do everything I can. Yeah. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
Right, so. Exactly. Yeah, it kind of gets to the point where you're like, you know what? I'm going to do everything I can, but, if it doesn't happen, it don't happen. I don't really know what to tell you.
Yeah. For the longest time, I kind of had this mentality, especially like when it came to work. It was like, I cannot make one mistake.
No.
I was like, if I make one mistake, I'm homeless. And like, so every time something like I messed up something, I would just like it would weigh on me really hard.
Yeah.
And now I'm at the point where I'm just like, if I mess up something, I just let someone know.
Right.
Like, hey,
I messed this up.
I've made this such and such mistake. I'm trying to fix it right now, or because the worst thing that could happen is we send out a set of plans to a client, and the worst thing I could fuck up personally is we send out a set of plans to a client, and like I didn't, put like a dimension on this roadway.
No.
Whatever. I mean, you obviously want it to be complete and perfect and everything, but that doesn't mean that they're going to sue our company.
Right.
But that, like, for the longest time, I kind of had that mentality. I was like, if I fuck something up, we're all out of jobs.
Yeah. Like, no, I've seen CEOs fuck up pretty bad, and the company's still operating perfectly fine.
Yeah, and they don't even get in trouble.
Nope. The company that I used to work for, the CEO did such a horrible job that they lost 15% of their business in 2 years.
Fuck. That's a big hit.
He did lose his job.
God, that is something I would never want to be.
What, a CEO?
A CEO.
No. I would want them to want me to be a CEO, but then me be like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because then I can like stay below where the CEO is.
Yeah.
But then be like, keep giving me pay increases.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, you could make even more if you became CEO. But I'm all right.
I also want to have a life.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it would be one thing if I say I started a business and then was like president and CEO of my own company.
Right.
Because then, in that case.
You have a vested interest.
You have a vested interest in it, and it's probably something I'm passionate about.
Right.
But, like, I would hate to be like a guy who got hired on at, like, General Mills to be the CEO. No. And, like, I just came from, like, Walgreens.
Right.
And, like, I got to switch over and learn this whole new company from top to fucking bottom. Ugh. All their like mission statement, and this is how we do things. This is how we use Microsoft Outlook.
Yeah. I don't even know my company's mission statement. I don't know, and I don't care.
I just know that they spell my name right on my paycheck.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and there's people that they will like move from company to company.
Yeah, they jump
and become
around.
CEO of those different companies.
I would never.
That sounds horrific.
I would never want to do that. That's somebody who...
They're like people that will go in and like fix these companies and get them up to like snuff, and then they'll leave and go to another company and then get them up to snuff.
You can't... I don't see how you can have a life like that. And maybe that's not the point. Maybe the people who are CEOs, the people who are, kind of geared for that position, don't have the same like hang-ups with it. Obviously they don't, as I do.
Yeah, it might be just something where it's like they want the challenge.
Yeah, they want the challenge, or they just want to be able to just kind of disappear into their work.
Right.
Because, CEOs, that's when you're a CEO or that's your job, that becomes your life.
Your life, yes.
That's all you...
Your life is that company.
Yeah, that's what you get to do.
Right.
It's just that.
Well, so like look at like Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
Like when he like purchased Twitter, like he lived up there. I think he's still living up there.
Yeah, meanwhile, he's still running the Boring Company and SpaceX and Tesla.
And Tesla and everything else.
No, I'm sure that he delegates a lot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But, like, I still wouldn't want... Because at the end of the day, he's the face and name attached to it all.
Well, Twitter was such a fucking tire fire when you took it over. And, for like, essentially from what I understand and from what I've heard people say is that the source code was so fucked... that they were like, yeah, we're going to have to rip this whole thing down. Yeah. Like, they're like, we don't even know how this is working right now.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to coding, that's a whole other issue, too. Is like, this is a code that, people that you never even spoke to all put together over the course of 10 years.
And nobody comments anything.
It's just a bunch of code.
Right. And then you have to, like, go in. It's like, well, where the fuck are they calling this function from?
Yeah.
Like,
somewhere on this, in these 5 billion characters.
Yeah. And you have like this massive like file somewhere that it like pulls all that shit from.
Yeah.
Ugh, awful. I remember like being in school and like trying to go back and reread a code that I wrote like a couple weeks ago. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Who did this?
Like, what idiot didn't comment their code? Like, oh, that was me.
It's me. I'm the idiot. I see a lot, so with Twitter specifically, I'm fairly new to Twitter. So I wasn't around for very long before Elon took over, maybe like a month or so.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I don't notice like any of the nuanced changes. But as far as I can tell, there was never any like downtime with Twitter. It's been running. It's like it ran while Elon took over, and it's been running under Elon. As far as I can tell, the functionality of the application works just fine.
Right.
Now he's done a lot of stuff with like paying for check marks and implementing new features just on the fly and
right.
all that. But I mean I think that comes from him just wanting to try new things.
Well, I think too, like from what I understand, was that his kind of goal was to have Twitter not become so like dependent on like advertising.
Yeah.
Like he wanted it to be more self-sustaining.
Right.
That way you're not necessarily so much worrying about the advertising dollars coming from these companies that want to purchase ad space on your platform.
And the problem with being like having advertisements on your platform or whatever is you probably have to enter in. I would imagine that you have to, because they're paying you.
No.
I would imagine you have to enter into some kind of agreement or contract with whoever it might be, say Dr. Squatch. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Squatch in their agreement says, we'll advertise on your platform and give you X amount of dollars every quarter, as long as there's no snuff films or kiddie porn or probably reasonable things like that. But then they're probably also like we want you to run. We want you to have an algorithm that checks for how many curse words are said. Right. And then if it exceeds this amount, then we're going to pull our advertising. Right. So then if you're running a business, a company, and you're like, okay, well, I need to pay my employees so they can feed their children. Right. I need to implement some kind of thing that's going to stop people from cursing on this platform. And then you do that, and everybody thinks you're a huge piece of shit. Right. So as far as who you're beholden to, right, I'd say it starts with the advertisers. Right. And then it's shareholders.
Unfortunately, just because the way that business model is structured, nobody's actually paying for that service. Like that's sort of the thing that fucked MySpace. Like, and I think we've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. Like when Facebook first got big was when you could have it on your iPhone. Right. Because it used to be
you had to go get on the computer.
You had to go to the computer room to get on Facebook.
Right. And now it's readily accessible. Right. Yeah.
And then once like Facebook was free to download on your phone. Yeah. MySpace was like $1.99 or something like that. Yeah. And we're like, I'm not paying a fucking $1.99.
$2? Yeah. What, I made of money?
Yeah, exactly. So, and then Facebook was free, so everybody just was like, fuck it, I'll use Facebook. Yeah. And it's like, well, Facebook, if it's free, like they have to do something to make money, right? Yeah. So it's like they're going to take whatever personal information is that you provide to them. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's somewhere in their terms of service, like their agreement that you essentially like agree to when you create a profile. Yeah. And it's like you are allowing us to take this information and sell it to advertisers so that we can personalize advertisements for you. Right. Right.
And a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't really seem very concerned with that sort of invasion of privacy. No, because I think that a lot of people don't understand just how far it goes. Like, when's the last time you checked your personal email account, and how many emails are in there right now? It's this insurmountable amount of emails for services that A, you used once, or B, you've never heard of. And the thing is, say you go to let's take Marco's Pizza for instance, right? And you go and you order online. You're just ordering a pizza. This is a very innocuous thing that lots of people do all the time. And you put in your email. Because you have to. Right. There's a little red asterisk, and you must obey its authority. You put in your email, and you order your pizza, no harm, no foul, right? Well, now they know where you live because your address and everything else was on that form as well as your phone number and your name. They could probably figure out your age, or they have access to that. They know that you like pizza now, so they're going to start sending you a bunch of fucking emails about pizza.
Right.
And all their affiliates are going to start sending you emails.
Right, because they're going to sell your information.
Yeah, and they're going to sell your information. They have your information. Okay, Matt, think of it this way. You handed them your information in this little box and also $20 on top, and they handed you a pizza.
Right.
And they turn around and they say, cool, we got his $20 and also all of this information. This $20, pff, fuck it.
Yeah.
I don't care about that. This is the golden egg.
Right.
And they go to their auction, and they say, selling Wesley's personal info to the highest bidder.
Right.
But then Pfizer's like, I'll take it.
Yeah, but not only to the highest bidder, but to everyone.
Yeah. So there's probably like this enormous database with just a profile built on everyone. Everybody. If you've ever been on the internet for any reason.
Right.
Where they know what you like, they know what you don't like, they know the stuff that you search for on Google. Listen to that. They know what you search for on Google. Yep. You turn on private mode, doesn't matter. They know. If you use Brave, doesn't matter. They know. Opera GX, doesn't matter.
Nope.
Probably the only one that's going to really save you is Firefox, just because nobody uses Firefox, so nobody gives a shit. All that information's out there, and they have it.
Right.
It's no longer a matter of what can I do to protect my private information.
Right.
That's done.
Yeah.
They have all that.
Well, not even if you don't use that, any type of, unless you're tunneling through a VPN, and let's be honest, I'm not even really sure how effective that is, but your internet service provider sees everything.
Oh yeah.
Like, they have all that information.
Yeah.
So Xfinity, AT&T, Verizon, Charter, whoever your local, whoever it is.
HughesNet.
Yeah, HughesNet. Like, they all have that information, so they can all see it.
One thing that I learned the other day, I thought this was kind of interesting, is based on your profile or this data that they have on people, it can determine the price that you pay for things, specifically airline tickets.
Yes. So
if, they have this profile on you and they can see that you've been searching things. Let's say one day you just got curious and you searched up Japanese countryside, and you spent a couple hours looking at pictures on Google of like Mount Fuji and the Hokkaido province and things like that, and like all the hot springs, and you're like, oh, that looks pretty cool. And then you talk about it on Facebook, and then you shoot somebody a message about it.
Right.
And they're like, oh, he's expressing interest in this area in Japan. Well, then, later on you're scrolling through Facebook and you see an advertisement for, visit Hokkaido or visit Mount Fuji, and you click on it because you're curious.
No.
You don't really make any kind of decision at that moment, but that's just another ding. He's expressing interest in this.
Right.
So now they know that you are probably going to want to go to Japan. You're probably going to want to go visit the Japanese countryside. And so a little while later, you hop on, say, Expedia or Kayak or whatever it happens to be, and you start looking up packages to go to these places. Those prices are going to be a lot higher than if you had just one day out of the blue searched up trips to Japan.
Right.
That's fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucked up. I mean, it's a free market. They're totally allowed to do that. But if you didn't order that Marco's pizza, you could have saved about $300 on your trip to Japan.
And also, too, the airlines will do the same thing, but theirs is mostly based off like your cookies. So, like, it says it caches some information from there.
Yeah.
And you can clear that out by using incognito mode.
Yeah.
Or like a private
most
portion of the browsers.
browsers will have something built in that
It'll clear the cookies out. It doesn't save the cookies.
Yeah.
And then so when you're looking for like airline tickets or specific prices on things, it doesn't cache that information so that when you reload it, it's not like it won't change the price again.
Right. Yeah. That's why, you probably. You probably have seen advertisements for like NordVPN, SwordVPN, or
ExpressVPN,
whatever the VPNs are. And what is that, virtual proxy something? Is that what
It's
that means?
a virtual private network.
Virtual private network. So basically, you're just masking your IP address so that when you send a request to a server, it doesn't really know, or it lies to the server about where that request is coming from.
Yeah, the best way to think about it was like if you call somebody, like they see your phone number.
Yeah.
So let's say that instead of using your phone number, you're using a phone like a
burner,
a burner phone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you're calling through your phone to get to this other person, but they're going to see a different phone number on the end.
Yeah. And, a big thing, VPNs are good things. They're good tools to have. And,
especially if you're out in public using if you're
public,
using public Wi-Fi, you need to have a VPN.
Yeah. It's, I recently switched over to Xfinity. And with the package that I bought, it comes with a VPN.
Their VPN?
It's their VPN. But, I can't really speak to the efficacy of it or not, but it also extends to my mobile service.
Yeah.
So I mean that's pretty nice.
Yeah. Well, and VPNs are actually they're pretty cheap. You can get I use Nord.
Yeah.
So
I heard lots of good things about Nord.
I like Nord.
Yeah.
So and Nord has some additional features like they have a password, like they'll save all your passwords, they'll lock it or whatever, and then they have like a file service that they offer too.
Yeah.
And I think it's like 5 gigs or something like that where you have like password protected files that you can store or whatever.
Yeah, so I mean that's you're never going to keep all your information out of the hands of like corporations and things like that. But the best, you do want to try to take an effort to keep all your personal information out of the hands of like Sergey over in Russia.
Right, exactly.
Or some kind of Chinese hacker or whatever.
Right. Well, especially too, a lot of people don't understand this. Like when you're using, let's say that you're at Hartsfield Jackson and you're using their Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. It's like everybody else is using that Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And so essentially what happens is that you'll make a call to the router, say, I want to go to Google. Or let's say, for example, you want to visit your bank account.
Yeah.
Through your banking service.
Very sensitive information.
Very sensitive information. But you do it through the app. Well, the app is still using web-based information in order to make that call.
Right.
So if you're not using a VPN to actively create a tunnel where all that information is going through that tunnel, then it's just out in the open and anybody can see it. And so usually what these people will do is they'll use what's called like a packet sniffer, which is, what's it called? Shark something or another. And we used it when I was going through my program. And that's how I started learning about all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so what a VPN does is it creates a personal tunnel, essentially like take your information and then wrap it and then nobody can get into it.
Right, yeah.
So that's like the purpose of having for me, that's the purpose of having a VPN is when I'm out in public and I need to access personal private information, like my bank account with my $5 in it.
Yeah. A good way to think about it is like, say you are standing in a room and there's a lot of people in the room with you. Everybody's just kind of milling about. And you want to use your phone to make a request to access your Bank of America account. And Bank of America is standing on the other side of the room. So you take your password and your username and all this information and you put it in this little box and you scoot it across the floor over to Bank of America.
Or you scream it at them.
Yeah, or you shout it through across the crowd at them. Bank of America, they're not going to do anything nefarious with your information. Right. They're legally bound not to do that. That doesn't mean they won't do it, but they say they won't do it.
Yeah, they do other nefarious things.
They do other nefarious things like just kick people out of their houses. So, the best case scenario is nobody notices that you slid all your personal information across the floor over to Bank of America. But there's a lot of people standing around who could just kind of snatch it up as it comes by.
I'll take that.
I'll take that. Yeah. A VPN would be like if there was a tube in the middle of the room that went straight to Bank of America that nobody could reach into and you sent it to them that way.
Right.
That's kind of the way to think about it. I think a lot of times people don't really grasp like the functionality of all that, like how that all really works. And it is not, I mean, it is, it's more complicated than what I've said.
Right.
But, it's, if you can kind of break it down into like more easier to digest terms, that's why a lot of these places like, NordVPN or whoever it may be, when they advertise their product, they're like, look at what can happen if you don't use a VPN. Or like, here's, how we keep your information safe and so on and so forth.
Well, it's kind of hard to kind of bridge the gap between people that don't really understand like technology on that level.
Yeah.
Like I have an understanding of how it all. I don't know the intricacies of it.
Yeah.
I have a very basic understanding of sort of how all of it works. But there's some people, it's like they can hardly use a fucking computer. And it's like, so they have no fucking clue. They don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, and if you try to explain it to them, they're like, dude, you're speaking fucking Chinese. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just get on this thing and it brings up your fucking information. It's
Right.
all magic as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, you know, in a perfect world, it would be that simple.
Right.
But, you know, anytime that there's a chance that people can use something to hurt other people, they will.
Right. Well, and also, too, like, when the internet first got started, like, nobody was really too concerned with, like, security features and measures.
Yeah, they're just trying to get it to work.
Yeah, so this whole thing is built on a fucking house. It looks like it's a house of cards, all right? Like,
Yeah.
It's barely hanging on,
Yeah.
all right? So everybody's like, they're like, imagine...
There's a lot of patchwork.
There's a lot of patchwork involved with the internet.
Yeah.
So everybody's just constantly trying to, like, fix leaks as they're happening.
Mm-hmm. Yep, sticking fingers in holes.
Yep.
I think it would be, you know, I think it would be a good idea to, you know, somebody like held maybe a seminar or like a class teaching specifically the older generations like how to safely use the internet.
Right.
Especially social media, because you know, how many times have you seen these things where it's like it'll be like this graphic, like this image, and it'll have like, you know,
a fucking minion on it.
Well, it'll be like, you know, what's your minion name, right?
Yeah.
And it'll be like, okay, so your first name is going to be the month you were born in, and your middle name is going to be the day, and then the last name will be the year. Yeah. And then like you have all these like
your
boomers,
credit card number.
You have these fucking boomers down in the comments who are just like giving away their information.
Yeah, it's like don't do that.
But you know, at face value, it's just this fun little thing to engage with, and that's all they see it as.
Yeah, it's always like some image of like a thumbs up smiley face emoji or something.
Yeah, and you know,
some innocuous like.
Yeah, and it could also be that the person who created that thing has, you know, probably seen something similar and made their own. And as far as I know, it's just this fun thing for people to do, not realizing that they're making this perfect environment for thousands of people on the internet.
This fucking petri dish.
Yeah, to just give out their personal info. Or it'll be like, you know, type middle child in the comments if you were a middle child, and then like. Some people are down there typing it, but then some people are like, I have an older brother, and my mother and father were born in New Jersey. Yeah. It's just like, what are you doing?
It's like, you do understand that all these are like security questions.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. That's the big one.
Like that's like they're looking for security questions, like something that you might, because essentially what happens is that the first time, or like if you act, what a lot of websites will do is to look at the IP address that you're accessing this information from. And if it's an IP address that they've stored in their system, so usually what it does is you'll make the call in order to log into your account. And then the website will go, so you've accessed our website to get to your information from IP address so-and-so.
Yeah.
This IP address doesn't match.
Yeah. So we need to make sure
we
it's
need
you.
you to answer one of your security questions so that we can verify that it is you. And so what these people will do is they'll look at, like, everybody knows, like, what's your favorite color? Yeah. Like what city were you born in?
What was the name of your first pet?
Yeah,
what's your hobby?
Yeah, what's your middle name or something like that. Like, so they're asking these questions, right? So all they're doing is they're creating a profile on you.
Yeah.
They're trying to get this information because all these websites use like the same security questions. Mm-hmm. It's like, why not? Why wouldn't you? Right?
Exactly.
So be very careful when you're answering these questions on social media. In fact, don't do it at all.
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't do it at all. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
And you should encourage other people, if you see them in the comments, to stop doing it.
Yeah. And you should also set your profile to private.
Exactly.
Any profile that you have should be made private.
Right.
Also, set up two-factor authentication.
Yes.
That is almost foolproof.
Right.
Like, almost everything I have that I log into, I have a two-factor authentication set up. But I don't use like a Google code generator or anything. It's always like either my phone number or it's something where they send me a text.
Or, yep.
That way it comes directly to me. But, I think that, at this point, you take somebody who's 80.
Yeah.
They don't have...
They don't
have another 30 years
They
here.
don't want to learn all this shit.
They don't want to learn all this shit. They don't care. But the problem is that an 80-year-old person can have their fucking life ruined. If somebody gets in there, manages to get into their bank account or their retirement savings or whatever, just fucking take all their fucking money.
Yep.
Take everything. And, there's a lot of, I see emails come through all the time, or I'll get texted. It'll be like, valued customer, your Amazon account has been blocked due to, security reasons.
Yeah.
Click this link to unblock it.
Please contact us immediately.
Yeah. That's always a fucking scam. Amazon's never going to do that.
No.
The IRS, here's another one. The IRS is never going to call you and ask you to pay them in gift cards.
No.
Okay? That's not going to happen.
I don't care who they send. I'm not paying taxes.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that guy on YouTube? Something Rober. Mark Rober.
Mark Rober?
Yeah. Where he tracked down that like scam call ring.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then he like mailed them like a time bomb that had like fart spray and like centipedes in it. And like it's really really cool. Like, yeah, look up Mark Rober on YouTube, everybody, and just look at his scam call once. And I think the whole thing started with like him making like a porch pirate trap.
No.
Where people would take this package and inside
like
of it,
bomb.
Yeah, it was like, it would throw glitter everywhere and also like spray fart spray, and then like it evolved into like this, he like over-engineered the hell out of it
into domestic terrorism.
Yeah, and eventually they tracked down like this scam ring over in India somewhere, and they managed to like hack into their CCTV so that they could watch them like open up this package or whatever. No, it was roaches. It was something. It was like 40 roaches, and like it was in like a backpack, and the guy like set it down, and then like after a certain amount of time, like the top of the thing like opened up, and all these roaches spilled out of it into this like call center or whatever. So you got people fighting the good fight on that end.
I know. I love watching like the ones. I saw one time where this guy, I don't know how he did it. He was using TeamViewer, and I'm not sure how he ended up getting this guy to do it, but he essentially syslocked their entire computer.
Yeah.
So he like got them.
Is that the Russian hacker or whatever?
I think so. So he like goes in, and he's like, somehow or another, he like got this person to give him access to his computer. And essentially what TeamViewer does is you can lock the other person from accessing the computer anymore.
Right, yeah.
They usually have to turn the computer off.
Yeah.
And the guy's like yelling at him on the phone, and then he like goes in.
He's like going through looking at files. Yeah. All they can do is just watch him. Oh my goodness. One of my all-time favorite ones is this guy who he'll get like a scam call, from like Microsoft support, like, hello, this is Jason from Microsoft support.
Yeah, exactly.
And he'll waste like 14 hours of their time. He'll pretend to be like this old lady.
Yeah,
and like,
I'm sure
and like just like he was like, well, hang on, I got to figure out how to turn on the monitor. He'll just do shit like that. But one of my favorite videos of his was like, he actually went all the way through to like go to the store and buy Google like Play cards.
Yeah.
Like he got like 4 like $500 ones.
Yeah.
And he was sharing like his screen with the guy, and he was supposed to. The scammer wanted him to tell him the information on the gift card, but he was pretending to be this old lady, and she was like, okay, so now I just enter in the information, and he was redeeming the cards in front of him. So he's basically giving himself his own money back, and the scammer is like watching on the screen, and he was like, do not redeem, you fucking bitch, fuck you, why did you redeem? I mean, he's like 18 hours into the call with this guy, so he wasted his whole fucking day. And he's like, now calm down, sonny. There's no reason to yell at me. Oh my God, it's so funny.
Oh God.
Just a real quick aside. Have you ever seen have you ever seen that video of that like road rage incident in India? Oh.
Is that the one? He's like, bloody fuck you, bloody.
Like, bloody fuck you, bloody bastard bitch. Fuck you, bloody fuck you. It's those two guys just yelling at each other.
It's so funny to hear people curse in language like that is not their primary language. Because they're just throwing out the words that they know.
Throwing them out there, man.
Yeah.
It's so fucking funny. That video, the first time I saw that, because it escalates so fast. Like the dude walks around, so it's like being filmed from like the passenger seat, and the guy walks around. He gets out of his car in front. He walks over to the driver's side, and they like he's like wait, if you want to go, you go around. Yeah. And the guy was just like, I don't fuck you, and the guy's like, fuck me, fuck you, fuck you. And they just like it just takes off. Oh my God, it's so fucking funny. God.
Well, speaking of funny videos, we should probably jump into this week's Super Cringe Thursday. Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and take the lead on this one?
So, you know, we have said several times before, like one of the worst things in the world is like looking like an ass in front of people, especially like girls, right? Yeah. So this Super Cringe Thursday video was, obviously it was a house party. It was like a bunch of teenagers. And they're all drinking like MD 2020 and a Hunch Punch, whatever it is they happen to have.
And they're drinking White Claws.
Yeah, all they could get their hands on. And there's a lot of people here. I mean, there's probably 20, 30, 40 people in this house. There's a bunch of kids. And the video starts out with this guy who's like standing in the middle of them all. And he's like hyping them up. He's not really dancing. He's just kind of jumping around.
There's like a TV behind him. It's got like the Roku.
Yeah, they're playing like YouTube music, and they're listening to some rap song, whatever. Everybody's like, you know, real hyped up as if it's just a bunch of fucking hormones in this house. And a little bit later in the video, this other guy, he comes into the circle, and he puts his arm around the other dude, and they're jumping up and down. They're, you know, having like a little hobbit dance or whatever in the living room there. Well, the second guy that comes up, they both start doing this thing where they're jumping up in the air and like stomping. Yeah. And like with both feet. Like they're trying to like, you know, make wine. Well, a little bit before they had done that, the second guy that shows up, he threw his drink. Like he was shaking his cup all over the place, and he threw a bunch of whatever he was drinking all over the floor. Yeah. Probably on the TV behind him too. If I had to guess, they actually probably did this at an Airbnb.
Probably.
So now that he's properly wetted the floor, and he's jumping up and down and stomping his feet.
He's created a situation.
Yeah. It's when his feet come back down on the last time, he slips. And I'm telling you,
he accelerates.
He lands teeth first into the fucking hardwood floor. He hits the ground so fucking hard that his head bounces like 2 feet up in the air. And it's so fucking loud, too. It's just like, pow!
Because he doesn't put his fucking hands down.
No, he doesn't.
His hands are down at his sides.
It happens so fast. His head had already bounced back up before he realized what happened. And I told Wesley, I was like, I know that fucking hurt because the way he had his like lip puckered up. And the fact that he immediately just leaves the party. He just gets up and walks right out the front door.
Oh, good. And I don't know if you noticed, but it looked like, if you look to the left, I think that there's some kid making like a TikTok or something over there. So he's like filming the person or
a
whatever.
lot of people were filming. Yeah. Like, a lot of people had their phones.
So this is in perpetuity now.
Yeah. There are a lot of angles. I wish we could get the video. I wish we could get all the different angles and stitch them together, and just see that impact from every direction. He had to have knocked some of his teeth loose. I mean, he
hit that floor really hard.
He hit that floor really fucking hard.
Right.
Yeah, he's so funny because he hops back up and he just walks out. He's like, "Well, I'm done here. There's no recovering from this."
Because when his
socially or dentally,
when his feet hit, they slip out from behind him, and it almost acts as a pendulum.
Yeah, like a fulcrum.
Yeah. So he his head speeds towards the ground, increases in velocity as he's going down.
Oh man.
Oh man, yeah. Whatever lady he was trying to impress there that night.
Yeah, she was not impressed.
She was not impressed.
I was impressed that he got all back up on his feet. Because
Right.
I think that if it had been me, I would have just laid there. So now he's whatever he does for the rest of his his teen years, that's his legacy now. It doesn't matter. He's the guy.
He's like, there's old Johnny Hardwood.
Johnny 2x4 over there.
He's like, he thought he was going to kiss a girl. Instead, he kissed the floor tonight.
Old laminate liquor. That's a good thing he didn't have his tongue out or something.
He could have bit it off.
Yeah, he would have bit it off.
Right.
That much force. I wonder if I know enough about physics that I bet I could calculate the force at which he hit the ground. Just by given his height and how fast he went.
Yeah.
The time it took from him to be up here to down there.
Right.
I mean, I've seen some people take some pretty hard hits, but straight into the teeth, man. I mean, it was all mouth.
It was not good. When he did that one,
yeah, I know. When I first saw it,
started sucking your teeth
Yeah, I kind of felt it myself. I was like, "Ooh, yay, Chihuahua!" It made me think about we were playing dodgeball. This was way back when people still played dodgeball. And you could put a lot of heft behind a dodgeball, and it's not a particularly painful thing to get hit with. But I remember that we were playing dodgeball, and I thought that I was going to do this slick Neo Matrix move and just kind of just kind of juke out of the way at the last second. Well, this kid comes running up, and he gets fucking everything he had. And I'm staring at the ball. And I don't know if my timing was just off or whatever. So I was this little fat kid with no reaction time. And it just beams me straight in the face. So I just stared him down. And got fucking hit with the dodgeball. I mean, he threw it from 5 feet away. We were both right up on the line. And it went pong. And I heard it resonate in my head. And I can remember just that hot feeling right on my face.
Because the dodgeballs have these little ridges on them.
Yeah, for friction and traction and grip. And I remember just how hot and stingy that was. So I can't imagine what it felt when this kid went head first into the fucking floor.
I used to love playing dodgeball. Was it the other one we used to play in elementary? It was prison ball, is that what they called it?
Prison ball?
Yeah, something like that, where the people would stand on the outside, and once you threw it, then if somebody got on the outside, they could throw it at you again. If you went out, you went over to the other side where the other team was, and then you could pick it up and throw it at the people.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that sounds familiar, yeah.
I remember one time we had this dude, he did the same thing. He's like as hard as he could. And this poor girl.
Oh, no.
he hit her square in the head. And it just ricocheted straight up in the air. And she hit the ground.
Oh, God.
she was just crying on the floor. We're 7.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because she's a little girl.
Yeah. He hit her and her hair just went poof.
You could see the transfer of force. into her follicles. Do you remember Red Rover?
We played that a couple times.
If I remember correctly, the idea of Red Rover is you have some kids who will stand like hand in hand, like in a chain, right? And the person who it gets called Red Rover, send whoever on over. They have to run full force at the people who have their hands linked and try to break through, right? I think that's the objective.
That's the gist.
Yeah. I remember in second grade we were playing, and me and this other kid were holding hands, and I looked at him. I was like, "Hey," I was like, "If anybody comes our way," I was like, "Let's just really give them one, just fucking give them right there." And he was like, "Yeah, dude, yeah, let's do it." And so they call over this girl, and I remember I won't say her name, but I remember exactly who it was.
Yeah.
And even all throughout high school, she was a very small in stature person, very short, very skinny.
No.
So as a child, it was even more so.
Yeah.
She probably weighed 20 pounds. So she came running over, and me and him looked at each other like, "Oh yeah, we got this," and just fucking clotheslined her. I remember
the back of her head bounced off the ground.
I remember feeling the bottom of her chin on my wrist. And her fucking feet just flew up in the air. She hit the ground. I remember looking at her laying on the ground, and she was just going. She just had these wide eyes, and she wasn't making any noise. And I was like, "Oh no! The consequences of my actions." I felt so bad about that. Oh, for the longest time. And I remember I never really saw her again, or I had like a class with her until probably like ninth grade.
Yeah.
And I sat next to her, and I
flinched.
Well, I remember one day I looked at her and I was like, we were amicable with one another.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if she remembers that happened. And I remember we were talking, and I was like, "Hey, do you remember in second grade?" And she was like, "When you clotheslined me?" And I was like, "I am so sorry about that. Like, I've always felt bad about that." And she was like, "Yeah, you should."
Yeah, it's always funny, like as a kid, like you'll do shit and immediately you're like, "Oh no, what have I done?"
Yeah. One thing that I saw a lot of, especially in high school, was fights.
Oh yeah, lots of fights.
So lots of good ones too.
Yeah.
I saw an Asian guy roundhouse kick a black guy in the head once. And he said something really racist before he did it too.
I think I know which one you're talking about. I think I know which one you're talking about.
But, I mean, to be entirely fair, the black guy wasn't antagonizing. And it was funny because he had all his friends with him, too.
Yeah.
And then once he got, roadhouse kicked and went to the ground, all of his friends laughed at him.
So that lets you know what they thought about him.
Yeah. But one of the best altercations I ever saw was... So, yeah, I want to say it was 10th grade or 11th grade. I don't remember. It's not really important. But we were sitting in the cafeteria, and we know everybody kind of has their groups that they sit with.
Yeah.
Well, there was a girl that sat with us, and she was a bit tomboyish. So she was like one of the guys or whatever. And across from us, like in one of those booths, was this other girl who she was a larger girl. And she was very rude, and not a lot of people really liked her that much. Mm-hmm. She was very loud. She would interject into conversations, and just annoying.
Right.
Well, her and Tomboy did not get along.
Right.
And almost every day at lunch, they were shouting at each other. Fuck you, bitch, fuck you. You got stinky pussy, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, one day, the larger girl got up, and she leaned over the table, and she had her hands on the table, and she was like getting in her face, like the tomboy girl's face. No. And she was like just saying all this shit to her. And the tomboy girl launches just the most...
I've had enough of this.
Yeah, just the most perfect form, straight right jab.
Yeah.
It hit that girl in the face, and I swear I saw her face like go around her fist. She hit her so fucking hard, man. it was like that hollow crack sound, you know? And she just put her on her ass and just bleeding, just leaking. I was like, that's one of the most beautiful punches I've ever seen.
It's kind of amazing to me because I've talked with Allison about this before. It's like, I don't understand why women don't resort to violence enough.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, for women can just kind of say the most horrific shit to one another.
Yeah.
And like, there's no consequences.
Yeah. They'll never
they'll never go, oh no, the consequences of my actions.
Yeah.
Right. Like with a guy, there's always the threat of violence.
Yeah. That if you push too far.
If you push too far.
It's guaranteed.
It's guaranteed there's going to be some violence involved.
Yeah, but with girls, they'll just say the most horrible shit to one another.
Right. And it's always funny because when one of them's just, like, every once in a while, it'll be the wrong fucking girl that they've chosen to do this with because she will resort to violence.
She grew up with brothers or something.
Most of the time, she grew up with brothers. She was the only girl.
Yeah.
So it's always funny because when you see that happen, the one that gets hit is always like there's this look of shock on their face. Like,
that look
it's
of
happened.
Shock.
Right.
Yeah. Like, this isn't supposed to happen to me. I'm a girl. You're not supposed to hit me, but you're a girl. You hit me.
Right.
It's like you broke some, like, sacred creed that they have with one another. I've seen a lot of videos, especially here recently, of, women specifically being the aggressors towards men. And men just rocking their shit. And, I was always brought up that you don't hit girls.
Right.
You simply don't. Because you're bigger and stronger than the vast majority of them. And if you hit a girl the way that you hit a guy, you're probably going to really hurt her.
Right.
And possibly, cause permanent damage.
Right.
She's just not built to take something like that.
They're not built to take that kind of punishment.
Yeah. But especially now, I see it on Twitter a lot. And, there's always these two camps of people saying, a real man doesn't hit a woman. And people saying, well, she was hitting him first, so, was he obligated to be physically assaulted?
Right.
And I kind of, agree in both directions.
Right.
So the way I think I look at it is it's very situation specific.
Right.
If I can get away from the girl, then I will do that first.
Right.
I will just remove myself from the situation. Whatever. She slapped me in the face. Okay, then I'll just leave. Obviously, I can't communicate with you. We're done here.
Right.
But if I can't get away, if she's bigger than me, if she whatever it happens to be, and I was like, okay, well, at this point, you leave me no choice.
Right.
I'm going to punch you in the throat. I'm going to collapse your trachea and run away.
I'm going to punch you so hard, square in your tit.
Yeah, right in the nipple. Give her a swift kick to the pelvis. You definitely shouldn't just start swinging on a girl. What are you doing?
Don't do that.
Because I've seen that before too, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Don't fucking do that.
Really, it kind of goes. It's kind of applicable to every situation. If it's guy on guy, girl on girl, whatever, you should try to avoid violence.
You should try to de-escalate the situation first, and if you are not able to leave or de-escalate, then if you are in a situation where you have to defend yourself,
make sure that's all it is.
You should use the minimum amount of force necessary in order to accomplish the job.
Yeah, only defend yourself.
Right.
Especially because you'll get into legal trouble.
Right.
If if there's
you curb stomp this motherfucker.
If there's a guy attacking you, and you punch him and you knock him out, and then you walk over and you start stomping on his head.
Right.
Then that becomes attempted manslaughter. Yeah. And you're both in trouble. You're probably going to go to the same prison.
It's sort of like, I think probably the most infamous one, and as soon as I say it, you're going to know exactly which one I'm talking about. It's the guy on the subway.
With the 8-ball jacket?
Yeah. New York City.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if I agree with how he handled that situation, but he got her to stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have never in my life heard a slap that loud.
Yeah. Well, after he hit her, all of her friends jumped in and started attacking the guy, but he held his own against all of them. I mean, they never got him down.
Yeah, they were getting two pieces too. So He's like, yeah, well, y'all can get these hands too. So
I mean, I've watched the full video, and they spend about 5 to 6 minutes
like berating
this guy, yelling at this guy, calling him names, making fun of him.
And he is actively trying to be like, I'm not trying to deal with you right now.
He doesn't engage with it at all. But you can only push someone so far.
Right.
And there's a point in the video where the girl is getting more upset with him because he is not matching her energy. He's not engaging with her nonsense. So she reaches up and she slaps him in the back of the head.
And then she turns around and looks at her friends like, look at what I just did.
Yeah.
And then by the time she turns around to look at him, his hand is so fucking far back.
It's way back. I know she turned around and saw this.
Because he's a tall dude.
Yeah, he's a real tall dude.
He's got some long-ass arms.
Big old, like, lanky Kong arms.
And his hand is, like, twice the size of my hand. So when he like, slaps her whole head.
Yeah. It's such perfect contact, too. It's the best, like, just imagine the sting.
Yeah.
Here's the audio from that.
Oh! Oh, shit!
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a real good one.
Yeah.
And especially too on a subway, because like there's not a lot of options as far as like running, as far as like escaping, like getting away. You're on a fucking train. You're in a tube.
Yeah.
You're in a hallway
you can't get
with
away
these
from
people.
this person.
Yeah. I love videos where, like if somebody's getting like picked on, they're very obviously not the aggressor, and then they just turn it around,
right,
and just like fucking knock the flying shit out of somebody.
My favorite is the little fat kid. The little Australian fat kid or whatever it is.
Yeah, what was his name? Was it Casey Haynes?
Yeah, where he pile drives that kid.
Yeah, dude, that was a big video. That was huge for a long time. Yeah, if you guys haven't ever seen that one, you could probably Google like fat kid body slams bully or whatever.
No.
But this kid, it's a taller, fatter kid, and then like a little fucking smarmy little weasel piece of shit kid.
Yeah.
Fuck that kid.
Smarmy. That's a good word to describe what this kid was.
Greasy little rat bastard. He's got the bigger kid like up against the wall, and he's like punching him.
No.
He's just like hitting him, bullying him, or whatever. And finally, the bigger kid has enough. And
the teachers aren't stepping in. They're not doing anything to stop this.
Nobody's doing anything to stop it. The bigger kid finally has enough, and he grabs the little kid and picks him up in the air and just fucking slams him on the ground. And then he walks away. That's all he had to do. Because it's over at that point. I mean, I just know that, like, in that little kid's mind, when he was upside down, 5 feet in the air, and accelerating towards the earth, he was like, this might have been a mistake.
That's sort of like the video I sent you yesterday.
Yeah, where he body slammed that guy three times.
That guy 3 times.
3 times.
It's like you would think that after the second body slam that you'd be like, you know what?
I'm not fighting you anymore.
I'm not going to fight this guy anymore.
After the first body slam, I'm like, okay, clearly I'm outmatched here.
Right. He took his ass to Suplex City. All right?
Yeah, 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times. Somebody said he put all of his skill points into HP.
HP. Tanking hits. The thing that really got me about the Casey Haynes video was, like I said, it went viral.
Yeah.
And, everybody was talking about it for the longest time. And it happened in Australia. And so some like local news channel in Australia did a video with Casey, the victim. And he was explaining, he was like, yeah, he's like, those kids, they pick on me every day. He was like, I try to just, avoid them if I can. He's like, but that day I just, I couldn't get away and I had enough. And you could tell, like, from listening to him, he's just a good kid, he's a sweet kid.
Right.
So they aired that interview. Well, the bully was like, actually, no, I'm the victim.
Right.
And so he got an interview, and he was like, yeah, Casey, he pretends that, he doesn't do anything wrong, but he actually picks on me, and nobody bought it.
No.
Nobody. You can just look at this fucking little kid's face. Look at him. He's got a buzzed head. You know why? Because he's a piece of shit and won't sit still for a haircut. Tells you everything you need to know. You know, a lot of times, like, when, like, two, like, young boys will get in a fight, they usually wind up being friends afterwards.
Most of the time.
Most of the time, the beef is squashed.
Yep.
And they get over it. But this kid, you know, his issues run much deeper. If he had to go on national television and still pretend that...
Claim his victimhood.
Yeah, claim that he's the victim.
Right.
So that is not going to serve him well.
No.
As he gets older.
Well, he's doing it for clout.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, he can't have the whole world see him get pile drived into the ground and also think he's a bad person.
Right. I don't know. I do think that it's probably best, especially like with young boys. Like sometimes you need to let them get violent with one another, especially at a younger age, because they're not really big enough to do a whole lot of damage.
Yeah. Like when they can still, you know, you can still kind of let them get violent, but not really, you know, put anybody in the hospital.
Right, exactly. It's like in a controlled...
Once they turn into like a 6'10", 300-pound teenager.
Right. That's when we're going to have issues.
Yeah, and they've just got anger building up over all these years.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's probably not best.
Yeah.
It's like you cannot...
That doesn't mean like throw your kids in a fight ring.
No,
just let them
you shouldn't have like Fight Club for your kids.
Yeah, just let them hash it out when it happens.
Right. I mean, Mom and Dad let us do that.
Yeah.
Well, she let me and you do that. I couldn't touch Aaron. But.
Yeah. Aaron's thing when he was little was scratching.
Ugh.
Like fucking Wolverine.
Yeah.
Scratching. Right across the face, across the back.
Yeah, I'd always have like these big gouge marks in my arms.
It's like fighting a cat. You know, I never really had, I never really had problems with bullies growing up. Like there was kids that like I didn't get along with, but you know, I never really had anybody who like physically picked on me all the time. And I was always kind of a bigger guy. But also like I tried to be amicable and nice to everybody, right. And like if I noticed that somebody was kind of like giving me like a hard time, I was just like, well then I'm not gonna. No. I don't want anything to do with you.
Well, you also waited till the end of the year to hit somebody.
There's also that. So I think I've only ever like hit. So in 5th grade, I hit a kid because the whole school year he was picking on me, being just a little shithead. And like I told Mom and Dad about it, I told the teacher about it, I told the principal about it, and of course nobody did anything about it. Well, Mom and Dad can't do anything about it because what are they going to do? Come to school and beat them up?
Go beat the kid up at school.
So they told me like just tell the teacher, tell whoever you can, and so I did all that. And I exhausted every option that I had. Nothing ever got any better. So I remember exactly what we were doing. We were waiting in line to go into our next class. And I was talking to a friend in front of me, and he was behind me, and he started flicking me in the back of the head.
No.
And I just turned around and I told him, I was like, if you flick me in the back of the head again, I'm going to punch you. And I turned back around, and as soon as I turned back around, he did it, and I just came all the way around with a right hook, and I hit him right in the eye. And I remember that he looked up at me, and he was crying, and he goes, that didn't hurt. And so I punched him again.
Oh, yeah? Like, oh, yeah, that didn't hurt? Well, here's another.
So we both got sent to the principal's office. And, a funny thing is me and that kid were also in track and field together after school. So we went to track and field practice, and his mom came up to Dad, and she was like, I think Gary and so-and-so got into a little bit of a altercation today.
Yeah.
And Dad was like, no, I think Gary punched your son in the face. It's like, I don't think it was an altercation.
The funniest thing about that is I remember like standing there with Dad and the head track coach was laughing about it.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I guess he won't do that again.
Yeah. And, the funny thing is me and that kid were fine for the rest of our school.
Yeah.
School
I was about to say,
life.
I don't think y'all really had any other run-ins,
There was no more incidents after that. The other one was, I think...
Was it on the bus?
It was on the bus. There was two kids.
The bus.
Yeah, you want to talk about
The Lord of the Flies.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, the fucking bus, man. So I sat near the back. I was like one seat from the very back. So there was two kids behind me. And all throughout the school year, they'd just do shit to annoy me. Like, they'd reach over and, like, touch my head or, like, kick the back of the seat or whatever. And I told them, I was like, guys, just leave me alone. Like, I don't, just leave me alone. And same thing. I told everybody. I told the bus driver, told the teacher, told the principal. Nobody ever did anything. And it was the last day of school. They were taking us home. And I sat down. And I turned around and I looked at them. And I was like, I just want you guys to know that if you mess with me, I'm going to beat you both up. And they were like, yeah, whatever. And so I turned back around, and one of them spit on the back of my head.
Yep, that'll do it.
And I turned around, and I got up over the fucking back of the seat. I started raining down punches on them, man. I punched both of those kids probably 40 times. And I'll never forget, because they're just like little weaselly, shitty little kids.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget both of them, like, curled up like this, and they were screaming. We hadn't even left the school yet. We had just got on the bus.
Yeah.
And so because of that, they made me and these kids get off the bus, and they called Dad up to the school, and they let Dad watch the footage.
I'm sorry, if that ever happened, I would just start laughing.
Yeah. I mean, we're kids.
Yeah.
It's not like I brought a gun to school. Jesus Christ. It's not like I brought a knife on the bus and fucking started shanking them.
Well, have you ever heard Dad tell the story about he had some kid that kept stealing his lunch money? So when Dad was growing up, you'd have to get him to tell this story, but he said, I guess when he was a kid, he'd get on the bus and this bigger kid would steal his lunch money from him.
Really?
And Dad wouldn't have any money to eat lunch at school. And this went on for a couple of weeks, and Dad finally just fucking had enough of it.
Yeah.
And so... You know those little baseball bats that are about this long?
Yeah, like the little
little Louisville Sluggers?
Yeah.
Dad slipped one in his book bag.
Oh, shit.
And the kid said, give me your lunch money. And Dad reached into his book bag and started whacking this kid with this Louisville Slugger and lumped his ass up with this little baseball bat.
I bet he didn't bother him after that.
No, he did not.
Yeah, see, you gotta let kids hit each other with baseball bats. Yeah. You just gotta do it.
Well, I mean, I don't think I ever got into a fight when I was in school.
I never got into like a full blown fight. Well, I take that back. I did get into one kind of a bigger fight in the parking lot, but that was really it.
That was like 10th grade year, wasn't it?
That was no, that was 9th grade.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
Because I remember you walked by me in the hall. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. Because I had a lot of their blood on me. Yeah. I mean, I can think of one instance where you probably would have gotten into a fight with one kid in particular, but it wouldn't have been much of a fight because you probably would have actually killed that guy. It was, what everybody called him Cheeto Head.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because he slapped you on the back of the head when you walked past him in the hall?
Yeah, me and Allison were walking down the hall, and I had my book bag slung over one shoulder. And so I was walking down the hall, and I was getting ready to round into Coach Shaw's class. Yeah. And I just felt somebody slap me in the back of the head. And without missing a fucking beat, I turned around and look at this kid and I just yell at him at the top of my lungs. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Yeah. And I start going after him, and then Coach Shaw grabs me like this and gets me back in the classroom.
Yeah. I remember because I had come in from the other direction, and I saw it down on the other end of the hall. And what I saw, I didn't see him hit you. I had just come in, and I just see people getting thrown aside. And Wesley, so there's the thing about Wesley in high school is Wesley was jacked in high school, and also had a huge temper. Yeah, and people knew just don't fuck with him. Right. And so I walked in the other side of the hall, and I see you basically swimming through a crowd of people, and I could see on that kid's face the look of fear. He was like, I fucked up. And it was like Coach Shaw and like 3 other teachers had to grab you.
Right.
And they made one of you stay home from school because they were worried you were going to kill him.
They sent me home.
They sent you home?
Yeah, they sent me home because I went up to Principal Backus's office. And
Backus.
So, and then he was like, look, you're not in trouble. He's like, I know that kid's a shithead.
Yeah.
He's like, so why don't you just go home for the rest of the day?
But we know that we can't watch you all day.
Right.
And you're going to find him.
Right. Well, it's funny because I saw him like a couple times later and the kid would not look at me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just seeing the
car
fervor with which you were trying to get
like
to him.
Like a wild animal. Because I remember he was like backing up, like trying to get away.
Yeah. Yeah, that kid was a piece of shit. There was a lot of shitty people in high school, and I think
there's
that they
a lot of shitty people
remained
in high
shitty
school.
their whole lives. There was this one girl who I think there was like something up with her. Like she had to have had like some extreme bipolar something or another. And I remember we were standing in line to get lunch one day, and we just heard her shrieking, just start screaming. And the whole cafeteria gets quiet, and everybody's looking like, what the fuck's going on? And she's standing over this other girl with one of those chairs.
Whoa.
And she's got it raised up above her head. And who was the she was like a psychiatrist. What was her name? It was Dr. something. Dr. What was her name? You just see her walking around campus all the time, like getting on to kids. W.
She was one of the. Wasn't she an assistant principal?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think she was an assistant principal.
You know who I'm talking about, though, right? She was a white lady.
She was an older white lady.
Yeah.
Doctor. Oh shit! What was her name? I know who you're talking about. Though.
So yeah, you know who I'm talking about. Yeah. Well, she came running across the cafeteria because I guess she saw what was about to happen, and she had to grab the legs on the back of this chair to keep her from murdering this other girl.
Right.
And they were like fighting over this chair, and that doctor, whoever it was just like, she was going, "Somebody fucking help me!" And finally, like some of like the football players were like walked over there and was just like kind of getting the chair away from this girl, and they had to like carry her away. But some kids are there's gonna be some kids like that who are fucking psychopaths.
Right.
And I don't know if that girl was being picked on or whatever, but she was probably going to actually murder that girl with that chair. You can't hit somebody over the head with a chair like that; you'll kill them. And you can't let the kids kill each other.
No,
can't have that.
You're right. Well, no, yeah. I mean, obviously, like there has to be a limit to which you allow violence. But, like, when you're talking about like kids like in elementary school,
like little kids,
right? But like once they start, like once you kind of grow into your adult body, but you still are a child. Yeah, when you have the capacity to murder somebody, right? Exactly. Yeah, like then it becomes an issue, right? Was it you that was at football practice and somebody brought a knife? So that was my junior year. So I didn't play football freshman or junior year. I played sophomore and senior year. So my junior year, I didn't play. And they had a kid, of course, like in high school, like there's like all these kids, like they talk about how they were in gangs and shit and all this other nonsense. Yeah. And so I guess there was a kid that had gotten into an argument with another kid. Then after football practice, they were all walking up from the practice field back up to the field house to get changed and go home. And from what I understand, what happened was that this kid jumped out of the car and ran up and like started trying to stab this kid with a knife. Just like right in the middle of practice. Yeah, like while they were walking up back to the field house after practice. And so, like, there was another kid. We'll have to bleep the name out. Bitch! Yeah. So him, McNasty. Yeah. So I guess he's like trying to stop this kid. He's like getting stabbed up. Really? Yeah, trying to like keep this kid from stabbing this other kid. Wow. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that kid got clocked in the head with a helmet. Yeah, as he should. As he should. But our football team also fought the band from another high school. So. I remember that. It was a big fucking brawl between like 80 people.
That was wild.
I remember that because I remember Billy hit that flute player in the head with his helmet.
That's such a vast difference in stature.
Oh, yeah.
Like a flute player.
Like a little flute player, like a little 5'2" flute player.
And Billy, who's like 7 feet tall, 400 pounds. Just fucking. What was that? What was the?
He was like, Billy, smash. It's like hit this kid like right on top of the head.
It's like drove him into the ground like Wile E. Coyote.
Like a fucking nail. Like a damn railroad spike. From what I understand, some of the football players are like taking the instruments, like whacking them on the ground and throwing them up on top of the school.
Yeah, it was a big kerfuffle. Were you there when and I'll bleep his name out, but when Chris slapped...
Yes, I was right next to Chris.
I've never heard Chris tell that story, but I don't think I've ever heard you tell that story.
So...
Why don't you tell us that before we get out of
here? Chris,
who was a guest on episode 10.
Yeah, Chris was sitting next to me, and we were in chorus, and I can't remember what was going on. I think we were getting ready for like the end of the year thing or whatever. And the kid behind us, who obviously has like, I think this kid has like some cognitive issues, right?
Something.
Right. He's got something going on. He's a shithead.
Yeah.
So he like reaches up and he's like poking Chris like in the back of the head. Yeah. Like not in the back of the head, but like on the back of his neck or whatever.
Chris doesn't like to be touched.
No, and Chris don't want to be touched. And so Chris is like doing like this, and he's like, stop, don't do it again.
Yeah.
And then he does it like 3 or 4 times, and Chris looks at me, he's like, if you do it again, he's like, I'm gonna slap the shit out of you. And he's like, oh, ha, okay.
Yeah.
And then he does it, and Chris just like backhands.
Oh, he backhanded him?
He just like turns like with the back of his hand and just backhands the fuck out of this kid. And the kid is like holding his face and like looking down, and then looks up at Chris and then just like leaves the class. And the funniest thing about it was happening. He goes, okay. And she's like, he's playing music on the piano.
Like that problem is solved?
Yep. Well, it looks like that worked itself out.
Now we're going to sing Hot Cross Buns. Oh, it's so funny. You remember, this is one last thing. You remember when Dad knocked that guy out at the KFC parking lot?
I do remember that.
So, unfortunately, I didn't get to see it.
I didn't see it either, but I've heard the story enough times.
I remember Dad said that he had gone to KFC to get dinner. And at the time, it was funny, just funny kind of thinking how all this probably looked. Because our dad's a big guy. And he drove this little PT Cruiser, and he had this little schnauzer with him, like this little tiny schnauzer, Trixie,
4-pound schnauzer.
Yeah, she's an itty bitty little frou-frou dog, and he loved that dog. And so he just see our dad get out of this fucking PT Cruiser with his little frou-frou dog, and there was a guy standing there in the parking lot.
Well, Dad had come out of the KFC.
Oh, he had already had the food.
He had the food in one hand. Yeah.
But there, he saw a guy in the parking lot, and he was with like either his wife or his girlfriend or something, and they were standing at the back of their car with the hatch up, and they were arguing about something. And Dad saw him slap her like really hard, and Dad just walks over there, and he goes, "Hey!" And the guy turns around, and Dad punched the guy and hit him so hard he knocked him up into the back of the car.
While he's holding his chicken.
He's holding his bucket of chicken. And Dad's left-handed. Nobody expects a southpaw.
Right. And I guess Dad was saying that, I guess there was a cop that was inside the KFC, and the cop came out. He's like off-duty cop.
Yeah.
And the cop was like, I didn't see anything, just leave.
Yeah, just get out of here.
And so
take your chicken and leave.
Yeah, Dad got in the car, and Trixie's going wild inside the car, barking.
Yeah. I don't know how Lex and Lola would react if something ever like went down.
Yeah.
Because like we've like pretended like I'm hitting Mary.
Yeah.
And then Lex and Lola are like, fuck yeah, it's playtime. And they'll jump over and start biting Mary. We're like, no, you idiots.
Then somebody broke in your house and just started attacking you.
Yeah, someone broke in. Oh! That's how they wake me up and let me know.
I think that our one dog, Ruthie, she's sort of just like you could let her go and she'd be fine. Like, she'd be fine out in the wild.
Yeah,
she'd get it figured out.
She got that dog in her.
Yeah. Like, she would probably attack somebody. But the other dog that we have now would not.
Well, he's a puppy. He's still a baby.
Well, he's a little Nancy dog.
Yeah, well.
He's like a little spaniel toy poodle mix.
Yeah.
So now I have my frou-frou
He's
dog.
a Cavapoo.
Yeah, he's a Cavapoo.
He's so cute, though.
Yeah, he's a sweetie.
Yeah.
But I'm not relying on him to defend my home.
At the very least, he can just shriek, wake you up. Well, I think that's about all we got time for today, everybody. So, once again, thank you so much for continuing to listening. We don't have any corrections to read out on this episode, but if you guys hear anything that we said that we were wrong about or you disagree with, make sure you let us know, and we'll read those out here on the podcast. If you guys are enjoying the podcast, make sure you leave us a like, a rating, a review, and you share it with all your friends and family so we can grow our visibility and everything, all those good things.
It looks like our downloads are steadily continuing to go up.
They are steadily continuing to go up, which is interesting because it's like all throughout last year they kind of stayed around the same number, but here in like the past like 2 or 3 months, like I've noticed they're rising. So like every month our total downloads become more and more.
Right.
So if you're new to the podcast or if you just started listening, hello, thank you for listening. We have 61 plus episodes backlogged that you can go and listen to. Matter of fact, the other day, I was listening to a podcast and it finished up, and then it just automatically played our podcast, and it played our first ever episode.
Really?
Yeah, and I listened to it for a little bit, and I was like, wow, it sounds so different. Remember, because we used those overhead mics, those little bitty compressor mics. And like it sounded different, like the way that we like talked to each other was different. Like it was not as loose as like this is.
Right.
So it was really interesting to like listen to like how our first episodes went and like how we kind of transitioned into what this is. I mean, like the overall theme, we don't really have a theme.
Right. It's just a conversation.
Get down here and bullshit.
Right.
That pretty much stayed the same. But also, we kind of came out of the gate swinging. Like we had like a theme song and like podcast art. And
Oh yeah.
So, I just thought it was really interesting to see that change. But so thank you everybody who's been listening. Do you have anything you'd like to close with?
Nope, just all the things that you said. Thank you so much for the continued support. We really do appreciate it. So, like Gary said, don't forget to like and subscribe, and if that's how you receive your podcasts, eventually one of these days we're going to get it put up on YouTube. Eventually.
Yep.
So be on the lookout. We'll let you know when that happens.
Yeah.
Maybe if I have some time this week and I can start kind of getting the process of. I think once you get your channel up, you can only upload like 4 videos a day or something like that.
I think there's also
a cap, right?
Yeah, and I think there's also a time limit too.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that would work. Maybe you have to do them in parts or something.
Do you have all the? I know that the drive that we use to get everything on there. Do you have all of them backlogged on external?
So I have every episode we've got, not the project files, but the
WAV files.
The WAV files.
Okay.
They're on that hard drive.
Okay.
So I do have those. I have them where I can get them up.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
I just have to find the time and the energy to do it.
Right.
But
we'll eventually do it. We'll get around to it.
Eventually. We will eventually is the slogan of the podcast. Yeah. All right, everybody. That's the podcast. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
You bloody bastard bitch! Fuck you! Bloody fuck you, bloody!